welcome to the SVG-TV news for Thursday, September 19th, 2019. I am Khalil Kato with the details. The first phase of a case challenging SVG's buggery and gross indecency laws, which criminalize homosexuality, came up for hearing in the High Court in Kingstown yesterday before Justice Esco Henry. Yesterday's hearing was a case management conference to decide on matters moving forward between the legal teams for both sides. The two claimants, Sean McLeish and Javin Johnson, who are openly gay Vincentian nationals, were not expected to be present in court for yesterday's hearing. They have both brought separate cases to the courts. However, it was agreed on by all parties involved to have the matters heard jointly and are being represented by local lawyers Jomo Thomas and Zita Barnwell. In court yesterday, November 13th was set aside for the date for the pre-trial, after which a hearing date for the substantial matters will be decided. In a telephone interview with one of the claimants, Sean McLeish, who resides in the United States of America, he said that his sexual orientation has been and continues to be an issue, having faced discrimination and abuse based on his sexual orientation. McLeish said that with the matter now being heard in the court, it is the first step for equality for all citizens regardless of sexual preference.
Today in the High Court is very important, not just for LGBTQ Vincentians like me, but monumental for access to social inclusion and equality for all marginalized groups. When I was growing up in St. Vincent as a gay man, I was made to feel insignificant and less than because of my sexual orientation. And I think today very little has changed, and I still see LGBT Vincentians being victimized and harassed because of who we love. We just want to live our lives free of these discriminatory obstacles that the criminalization of homosexuality fuels. And I place my confidence and hope that eventually to correct this inhumane injustice, because justice is a remedy for pain and a step towards healing and freedom.
McLeish said the buggery laws of SVG, crafted under the colonial rule, are not only discriminatory and inhumane, but are against the basic tenets of the Constitution that protects the rights and freedoms of every citizen.
Well, I think it's due time. We're now in 2019, and if you look geographically at the map of the Western Hemisphere, St. Vincent and the other former British colonies are the only countries that still criminalize homosexuality today. And it's something that has to be done for our future, for LGBT Vincentians, as well as for the progress of the country to move ahead. Well, I think that, human rights, which belongs to each one of us, it's something that's conferred at birth. And it's not something, I think, that should be up for social discussion, because then they become privileges. So it's something that the courts would have to remedy. I don't think it's really up. It's not a matter of opinion of the church or, social discussion between people.
The other claimant, Javin Johnson, who said he was forced to seek asylum in the United Kingdom because of his sexual orientation, said in a joint news release issued today that he is happy that the legal challenge has begun and that he is committed to making sure that what happened to him in SVG doesn't happen again to future generations of gay people. Commenting on the legal challenge at a media conference earlier this week, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said the claimant started a new conversation in the country. He agrees that the laws were crafted under colonial times and said the Attorney General is handling the matter and he will await the outcome of the case. A high-level mission from the European Union, the EU, paid a visit to SVG today, assessing projects funded by the organization. Upon arrival to the state, a news briefing was held inside the VIP lounge of the Argyle International Airport before the team proceeded to visit several project sites, including the Bookmans Bay Polyclinic. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd tells us more in this report.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is among 4 CARICOM countries the mission from the European Union visited to assess the projects the organization has funded. The mission to SVG was headed by Ambassador of the EU to the OECS, Daniela Tramashiri. The Director General of the Directorate General for International Cooperation and Development, Stefano Manservisi, was also among the EU delegation in SVG. Speaking to the media at the AIA, the Director General says the visit is threefold, which includes the evaluation and assessment of projects done in SVG.
The negotiations which are ongoing on what we call the post-Cotonou agreement, meaning the redefinition of our relations in the framework of the ACP agreement. But this time, as you know, what we are negotiating is an agreement which is sort of framework plus a dedicated compact or agreement with the countries of the Caribbean. So therefore, a reason more to take stock and to give, let's say, an input to our negotiators.
The EU Director General said that the visit is expected to enhance the relationship currently shared between the EU and SVG.
So it's a sort of tour in order to make the point about our cooperation, about relationship, and to prepare the future. You know that there are a certain number of important events ahead of us. First, we will have in a month or so a new Commission, a new President of the European Council. So it is our duty, I will say my duty, having been in the region since many, many years, to make the point and to offer a brief on where we are and about the importance of this region for the European Union.
The Buckham Polyclinic is one of the most recent projects funded by the EU. The EU's funding in SVG spans more than 20 years, which Minister of Mobilization Frederick Stevenson said contributes significantly to national development.
Fields of agriculture, health, education, tourism. In the Ministry of Transport, they've done several roads here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The latest portion of road was the Windward Highway. Over the last 20 years, the EU have spent over 171 million euros in development programs here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we are very happy to have them.
Following the press briefing at the airport, the EU team met with members of cabinet, after which they visited the Buckham Polyclinic and the SVG Community College. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Larissa Pugsley-Kidd.
The Argyle International Airport, the AIA, passed with flying colors a recent inspection by the U.S. Transportation Security Administration, the TSA. Speaking on the findings at a news conference on Tuesday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said he's pleased with the report from the TSA, as it found no deficiencies with the operations at AIA.
And they wrote a letter to the Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Yvette Pompey, the Minister of National Security, Air and Seaport Development Office of the Prime Minister. A relevant paragraph. At the conclusion of this visit, the TSA team discussed the results of the assessment as described in the attached executive summary with airport and other officials of your government. No deficiencies were observed.
The Prime Minister said the measures for the different areas assessed received an acceptable rating, which is commendable.
For each of them, measures were at an acceptable level. And what are these? Airport operations, quality control, access control, airport security, passenger and cabin baggage security, whole baggage security, cargo, mail and other goods security, special categories of passengers, acts of unlawful interference prevention, landside security.
The U.S. TSA team carries out assessments on airports to ensure they are operating at international standards. Invest SVG's Angel Investing Project, dubbed Pitch It Vinci, has shortlisted 7 persons in the micro, small and medium enterprises for the chance of receiving capital funding for their businesses. Marketing Officer with Invest SVG, Anjanella Young, said that 10 persons signed up for the project to gain the opportunity. The 7 shortlisted include persons from the fashion industry.
So we have already chosen the persons and businesses for the first rung in the Pitch It Vinci. We have Rondell Dixon from Fashion House Caribbean Limited, Peter Odini Sutherland from Peter Odini, Kenya Kittels from Link Up, Raymond Victory from Plum Tech Pro, Kimya Glasgow from Kimya Glasgow Designs, Florence Manier from Afro Trip, and Crystal Alva from Olive Art Design. Those are the persons who will be moving forward. They have been shortlisted and they will be going on to a period of training.
Mentoring and training on how to pitch their businesses to the angel investors will commence shortly. Young said a finalist will be selected by the Caribbean Export Development Agency, who will win $2,000 to help with their business venture.
For the opportunity to pitch to the panel, we have Caribbean Export who will be coming, doing webinars with them to get them ready for the Pitch It Vinci. It's maybe a 2-week training, different because it will be individual training. So we'll call that, they will have a webinar for each of them and they will go through the training because it's different businesses, so different needs, so different things that we need to touch base with some of them, and then we'll have a one with everybody.
Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Department, Kelvin Pompey, is calling for a singular body to administer international tax standards to avoid tax evasion and harmful taxation. Pompey was at the time delivering remarks at the start of a 3-day induction workshop on base erosion and profit shifting, or BEPS, inclusive framework at the Beachcombers Conference Room. The workshop was hosted by the OECD and the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning with support from the Inland Revenue Department and the Financial Services Authority, the FSA, and brought together local, regional and international persons in the financial services sector to create a greater understanding and the application of the BEPS standards. The issue of harmful tax practices has continued to increase over the years, with evolving tax standards shaping the legislative framework of the countries and the landscape of financial products locally, regionally, and internationally. The US, the OECD, and the EU have in the past tried to implement tax criteria extraterritorially in an attempt to create a level of compliance. Pompey said while SVG fully supports international tax standards, he believes there should be one administrative body dealing with these standards.
U.S. Foreign Tax Transaction Compliance Act, FATCA, and more recently, the EU issued tax criteria. Our country has, however, strongly endorsed and continues to endorse international tax standards to be administered by one single body, espousing one set of international accepted tax standards within a context of due assessment and appropriate enforceability. This proposition has gained even more prominence in our respectful view with the advent of EU-issued tax criteria to avoid duplication of efforts, occasioning considerable strain on the human, technical, and financial resources of especially small island states. Our position is no secret, as we have reiterated same through various relevant fora, and further openly stated that we consider that the OECD should be that single relevant international tax administering body.
Pompey said SVG has already implemented part of the BEPS standards, which was expedited by the EU Code of Conduct Group. The Inland Revenue Comptroller said he welcomes useful discussion on the issue of harmful taxation.
Stood by our commitment to ensure that provisions assessed as harmful have been amended. I pause to say that I hope that during this discussion over the next 2 weeks, that the whole, over 2 days, that the whole concept or construct of harmful taxation would be discussed. And who exactly are causing harm to whom. The resulting negative effects of these amendments are already being felt in our international financial services sector, as the changes meant that the tax exemptions previously offered to IBCs and trusts have been removed, rendering St. Vincent and the Grenadines almost uncompetitive as it relates to IBC and trust products. I just want to reinforce that the recent amendments have rendered St. Vincent and the Grenadines almost uncompetitive as it relates to IBC and trust products. I believe that this will be a topical issue at this workshop for some lively discussion as it relates to Action 5.
Blacklisting can have a negative impact on a country's economy, and Pompey said he prefers a coercive approach to assist countries which have been making efforts to comply.
We find an approach of coercing countries which have clearly made efforts to be cooperative and to abide by international standards, not only overly autocratic and unnecessarily tiresome, but also archaic. Such approach is undoubtedly precarious to small state economies, and larger countries need to be more mindful of this fact in seeking to obtain desired objectives. It must be noted here also that many of the strategies that are being utilized by small island states to obtain some sort of fiscal space and to move up the economic ladder are the very same methods that developed countries would have used decades ago.
The acting senior dental surgeon is appealing to Vincentians to take their dental health more seriously. In a recent interview with SVG-TV News, Dr. Brendan Richards said many Vincentians seem to ignore their dental health, which could put them at great health risks. He said in recent times, persons have been diagnosed with cancers associated with poor oral health, and it is important to engage in continuous self-examinations.
We need to start inspecting your mouth, because there are times when things may pop up and they would only become noticeable when it aches. That time it might just be too late. We have already had for this year 5 cases of oral cancer. And it may seem 5 in a population, but it is significant because we have not had that many in 1 year. And oral cancer comes not just from smoking. There are other causes that can bring on oral cancer very easily. A tooth that is left there that is forever cutting into the cheek and gums, constantly giving you this sweet little ache, but not really causing tremendous pain that bugs you or pushes you to go to an oral care provider. And so you linger with that tooth there. It's constantly irritating and it's causing the mucosa or the tissues around the area, whether it be in the tongue or cheek, to begin to change so that you develop a little ulcer. And you're still not paying attention because you're not seeing it and you're not feeling it.
Dr. Richards said regular dental checkups should also be part of a person's oral hygienic regimen.
The tongue is perhaps the most vasculated organ in the mouth, which means that anything that affects the tongue is going to go straight into the bloodstream and very quickly. So we want to make sure that persons get their regular checks done and do their self-checks. Open the mouth, go in front of the mirror, see what you think is normal and what you don't think is normal. And whatever you think is not normal, check it out. It doesn't hurt.
Tomorrow, the Girl Guides Association of SVG will host its second reading competition under the theme Read Up, Speak Up, Lift Up. The reading competition will be held at the Girl Guides headquarters at Level Garden from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. The competition is being held to mark International Day of Peace, which is recognized across the globe, and is also part of the association's activities to recognize International Literacy and Orange Day this month. 6 Girl Guides in Forms 1 and 2 from the Kingstown Division will read messages promoting peace, non-violence, and anti-crime positions. The participants are Ajani Dyer from the number 27 Girl Guides Company, Katisha Phillips from number 29, Cage Cruikshank number 1, Mariah Matthews number 3, Rhea Williams number 28, and Ronkia Benjamin from number 10 company, that should be number 10 Kingstown Girl Guides companies. All participating Girl Guides will receive a Medal of Peace, that should be a Peace Medal of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the top 3 performers will receive gold, silver, and bronze awards based on their overall scores. The association held the competition for the first time in 2018, and the top 3 participants were Azaria Kamijong, Ajia Hope, and Sania Antrobus.